Hello everyone, it is me, Natasha, and I'm back with another video. This video today is actually dedicated to my other intuitives and empaths who are considering becoming an intuitive reader. Now, whether you want to do this for yourself as a hobby or for your friends or professionally, that is, a decision for yourself to make. This video is not necessarily teaching you how to read people. I just simply want to dedicate a video for you guys on some things you may want to be aware of or just, to consider when you are becoming an intuitive reader from a professional intuitive reader. So if you're interested in learning more about that, then please keep watching. A quick little disclaimer, this video is not intended to be any business, financial, or legal advice. I simply just wish to share my own 2 cents and knowledge and experience. So if you're interested in gaining that perspective, please keep watching. Okay, we're gonna move right on into it. I do have like a little list of things I'll be sharing with you guys, so that's what I'll be looking down from time to time. Okay, in person versus online. Okay, when you're doing intuitive reading in person, there are some things you may want to consider. When you're in person, you would be most likely attending psychic fairs or perhaps signing up as a vendor to go to events to participate in and, connect with your local community, put your face out there. In person's great for that. Online, there's a lot of perks there too, but realistically, I think in this day and age, you really need to consider doing both. You may feel more comfortable doing one over the other, but I think if you're just starting out, you should try to consider joining some local events. You should try to put your face out there in your local community, as well as try to, solidify your presence online. I think that's the realistic answer, to be honest with you. But if you are doing it in person, just keep in mind that yes, you're going to have to look for events to join so that you can participate in. So you do always have to kind of keep up with that. I would say Facebook is really good for that if you're looking for events. I say because there's a bunch of groups that you can look into as an entrepreneur or as a vendor, and you can always see events that way, and also look at the events page. But typically for me, I look on Google and Facebook if I am looking for local events to attend to. Online, what I recommend is you getting a Google My Business profile. Now, this is free, okay? Again, this is not business or legal or financial advice. I'm just telling you my 2 cents. It is free to get listed on Google, but you do have to verify yourself. So there is a process to do that, but it's so simple. You just have to look this up, how to set up a Google My Profile account, a Google My Business profile. You can literally look this up, but I do recommend it. It's completely free, and once you're on Google, people can look up you and find you, or they're just looking up like your niche and then they'll find you because you're associated with that type of, work. So if you're doing the online, I do recommend you get on social media platforms, but the biggest one, regardless if you do social media or not, is get listed on Google. It's free. Everyone uses Google, and put yourself out there, make yourself known. I know some people like to use Yelp and all those, but honestly, I don't like those. I like to use Google, and I am on most social platforms, but do what you're comfortable with. Just keep in mind, if you are doing online, you may need to eventually get a website or have a business page so that people can contact you and have a service. But either way, in person or online, you are going to have to set up for people to connect with you and that they know what you're doing. So if you're in person, and you're at an event and you have a table, maybe you want to have business cards. Maybe you want to have a sign that has like your pricing on it and the services you offer. So you don't have to keep, saying, oh yeah, I offer this for this much, and saying it over and over and over again, because that's so annoying. Maybe you want to have a sign that has a QR code that people could just pay you like that, or whatever the means is. If you're online, you may eventually want to get a scheduler. Before, people would just text me and then I would do everything manually. Once you get consistent, that's like a headache. So I like to use Acuity scheduling with Squarespace to book my clients personally. I just find that Squarespace is better for tarot card readers, intuitives and stuff like that, because I find out that Shopify is more so best for product-based businesses, but that's just my 2 cents. You may disagree with me. I'm just sharing again what is from my noggin, okay? Next, let's talk about the types of services or readings that you're gonna offer, okay? And this is something I get a lot, okay? Just because you can do something, I don't recommend necessarily offering it. I used to know a couple of different readers, and they would try to offer every reading under the sun, and then they'd wonder why nobody was biting. Nobody would pay them. And the truth is, only offer readings or services that you are actually excited to do. Or yeah, that's it. That's literally it. Because I've seen people literally offer a broad range of services, and then they're only getting 1 or 2, 3 things actually booked or dealt with, when they could do all this. And the realistically is, offer things that you're passionate about, because when you're doing those things and you're going deep and you're passionate, it shows in the work. People are, wanting to work with you, and it's not as confusing. So if you want to do a special type of reading, but it's not necessarily mainstream, it's kind of different, that might be your angle to make you stand out. I just recommend only doing services or readings that you are confident in and that you are passionate in, because if it's just something that you could do and you're like, yeah, it makes me look good or whatever, don't do it, because it's not going to sell at all. When you're passionate about something, things flow so much easier. So I'm just telling you from experience, only offer things that you are excited and confident in doing, okay? Payments, okay. Payments, regardless if you're in person or online, this is where it gets kind of messy for people. Okay, so if you're in person and you're accepting payments, I do recommend either having a cash box, the ones that you would have for a yard sale. You can have the key or the little, combination lock on it. And basically you can, put your money in there like it's a till, and give your change and whatnot. Just make sure if you're doing that, you have a receipt book that you can write people, a copy of their receipt if they need that. If you're online, or no, even if you are still in person, if you don't want to use cash, that's up to you. Sometimes I just didn't want to use cash because it would be a headache for change and stuff. So I would have a card reader, and I was using Square's card reader at first. It worked fine. You don't even have to have a Square account really, but you would get the Square, the free Square card reader, get it in the mail, and then you just hook that card reader to your bank account, and it just goes straight into there. So I liked using the card reader. But let's say you're going online, let's say you're online, you're thinking, oh, how can people pay me? So there's a few different things I've seen other, readers do. I've seen some people use PayPal and Cash App and all that stuff. I used to for a while, for a few years, but then I stopped because tax-wise, it was just kind of a headache for me. Now, currently, I use Stripe as my payment processor with my automatic booking system that my clients use. It's synced to that. And Stripe is basically just a processor that's connected from my scheduler, and it hooks up to my bank account. So I like to use Stripe It can be used for a lot of different applications, but it's hooked up specifically with my acuity scheduling. And it just works better for me. It's less headache. Everything's like in one, thing. I'm not using PayPal and Cash App and all those things, so not everything's spread out. It was just a headache that way to keep track of expenses and all that. So I stopped using all those platforms and switched straight to Stripe, which I only started using when I was using an automatic scheduler, which was acuity scheduling. But do what works for you. Just keep in mind, if you are going online, you are going to have to use some form of payment processor, either from your own personal website, or you do have a scheduling system to accept payments. But just keep that in mind. It's either you're going to have a payment processor, a card reader, or the cash box. And whatever your preference is what your preference is. But I do everything pretty much virtual online now. So people want to book, I can give them my website or give them a specific link. They book, they pay straight from that link or my website, and then that payment goes from Stripe to my bank account. So that's just what works for me. Okay, here's a big one. Let's talk about how to prep for a session, because this is something I think is very overlooked as an intuitive reader. People think that, you can just go straight into you can have a normal day, stop what you're doing, go straight into a session. Like there's no prep work for your energy or anything like that. There is absolutely maintenance necessary. So when I'm right about to do a session, I will ground outside, or I might do it early on in the day so I can ground my energy, be present, living in my body. I will cleanse my personal energy, so I can use Florida water, a smoke cleanse, a singing bowl, whatever method works for me. And after I'm done purifying my energy, and I'm actually ready to go in for the session, I'll go to my spot that I'm doing the session and I will start to do my prayers. And when I'm praying, there's a few things that I pray for intentionally. First, I pray for my spirit guide team to surround me. I ask them for specific things to imbue me with, whether that's I'll call on one specific spirit guide maybe for strength, or for another one to shield me. There's different, I give them assignments. I delegate my spirit guide team to come to me, and I give them assignments as I'm doing my session, because my spirit guides work with me. So I'll call on to my guides and I'll ask them to do their work. And then I'll also pray to the higher self of my client. They're not on the phone with me. I'll just do a prayer and I'll say, so-and-so, I pray that you feel guided to ask specific questions that may help you currently in your life, or may help you for your alignment. I'll just say general stuff, things that I hope my client will feel guided to ask specific questions that they need. I'll even thank the higher self during my prayer, saying, I thank you for feeling guided to connect with me, and I look forward to helping. It's like me giving a prayer and intention just to the higher self of my client, as well as and depending on the type of reading, maybe I'll even pray to the spirit guides of my client during that time, so that I'm saying, hey, I don't want to deceive her, I don't want to make her dependent on me. I'm just saying that I would love to connect with you guys and her energy so that she can have the best for what she needs in this moment. So there's a few things I do pray for. I pray for myself, I pray for my client, and then I pray with my spirit guides. And I make sure I do all three before I hit phone call or FaceTime or Zoom, whatever, with my client. I find that is very important. If you need examples or anything like that, feel free to comment down below, but that's just the general sense. You want to prepare for the session. You want to prepare your energy. You want to, prepare your space if need be. And you may want to say your intention beforehand doing the actual session, whether that's for your energy, for your spirit guides, or for your client's energy. That's just what I recommend. Do what you feel resonates. I'm just giving you my 2 cents, okay? Next is client onboarding, okay? So this means, how are you going to accept clients? So if you're in person and you're at an event and people are just walking around and stuff, you got to think, okay, what's the process of me, processing a client. So in that instance, it could be, you can have your sign, you can answer a few questions, and then if they want to, go with you, you can swipe their card or take their money and just do the session right there. If it's online, it might be a little more complicated. Maybe you send them a link and then they book, and then that's it. You get the notification, you're done. Maybe, you tell them to contact you by email directly or by text or whatever it is, and then you have to manually do all this. Just keep in mind that when you are processing your client, that you are, getting all necessary information to contact them, that you know who they are, any necessary details that you may need for your session. Like if you need specific information for a type of reading or whatever, you may need to ask that. Personally, since I do everything online now, my process is someone can either go to my website or they can ask for my direct link. And then from there, I just say, here's the link or whatever. If you have any questions, feel free to message me back or text me back, whatever. They'll book, and then I just get the notification. That's just how it works for me. Beforehand, I was doing everything manually. Like people would just contact me and I say, okay, what kind of reading you want? Okay, this is how much it is. Okay, great. Here's the link to pay me. And it was just so long. So you want to consider when you are processing or onboarding your client, you want to make it as less steps as possible. You want to make it smooth so that people can just get in the door and receive with you, So just keep that in mind. You may want to, either have signs up or make landing pages or maybe get a scheduler, whatever works for you to do it smooth. Do that as necessary. What I like about Acuity scheduling is that, yeah, they can pay, and they have a client intake form so they can fill out a whole form that I make, and I can receive all the necessary information that I need. So I just find that to work better for me, but please find what might work better for you. Okay, event space, okay? Now this is a big one because every event is different, if you're a vendor or whatever, and usually when you're, doing an event, sometimes they provide a table and chairs and stuff like that for you. And sometimes as a vendor or entrepreneur or whatever, you're going to have to bring your own. So that's something you definitely want to find out beforehand, because if you don't, then you're going to have to bring your own table, your own tablecloth, chairs, and then anything else that you need on the actual table. So sometimes they provide it for you and sometimes they don't. It just depends on the event or the event coordinator or the space, it just depends on the situation. If they don't, then consider, okay, if I have to bring everything on my own, or if I need to bring some stuff to add, what's going to bring me some eye appeal? Like, you want it to look at, like, you want to draw attention to you, whether that's aesthetically or whatever, energetically, you want to draw attention, obviously. So if you're at an event space, maybe you want to create, like a L with your table, like you'll have a table here and a table here, and that way people can just come to you, like, like a line or whatever. Just make sure that when you have an event space that you are utilizing your space to the full capacity that you can. I know people that will just put on, like basic stuff, and that's fine, it works for them, but I just noticed that when you go to different types of events again and again, regardless if they're different or not, you're not always going to recognize the same people. And I just find that in order to stand out, you're going to really want to, because even if you're in a corner, you're going to want to put the eyes on you. So you can use color, you can add different vibrational elements to actually draw people to you. Just make sure that when you have your event space that you are thinking about, oh, does this look appealing? Is this easy for people to come to me? Because sometimes when you do your event space, not only you have to bring all your stuff and everything, sometimes you are able to pick your spot. So if you are able to physically pick out your spot during an event, try to pick something, maybe inside, or maybe something that will have a lot of traffic. Just keep in mind during an event space, you're going to want to think in the perspective of your client or your potential clients, because you want to be inviting. You want it to be comfortable. You don't want anything complicated, because if it's hard, if you got to think about it, like really think about it and everything, people are just going to walk right past you. They're going to think, what does that mean? You know? So just keep that in mind. Okay, disclaimers. Okay, this is very important. Especially if you do decide to do intuitive reading as an actual career, okay? Disclaimers are legally necessary. If you do this professionally, intuitive reading, you are actually going to need disclaimers, policies, in terms of service, realistically, all 3 of those. But if you are just wanting to start out doing this as a hobby, whatever, it's not as necessary. But if you are considering doing intuitive reading professionally, disclaimers are necessary. And disclaimers are just more so, just setting the record straight legality wise, so that you are not claiming that you're all encompassing. So for example, disclaimers are, it's like, for example, saying like, I do not claim, like for example, legally as intuitive reader, you can't claim that your readings are for prophecy or fortune telling, because legally that's a huge no-no. You have to say something like, this is just intended for inspirational, spiritual, and entertainment purposes only. Legality wise, that's what you're supposed to say, or something along the lines of just entertainment purposes only. I do have a website. If you're welcome, if you want to look at my disclaimers and policies and stuff like that as an example, you're welcome to. You want to keep in mind that your disclaimers is basically you saying, hey, just, keep in mind that my services, this is, the real deal, considering like, oh, like for example, I don't claim that, like when I'm doing mediumship, I don't claim that a specific spirit will come to me. I just, like that's something I put in my disclaimers. I can receive messages from spirit and all that, but I'm simply just a bridge. I can't force spirit to like tell me or to stick with me for a connection or whatever. I just simply receive what is given to me and I just share that. So I put in my disclaimers, if you're expecting a very, a specific person, I'm not claiming that I absolutely can. Legality wise, I can't do that. So that's what your disclaimers are. You're basically, for legal reasons, you're saying, be aware of this. If you are, taking my services, or if you're interested, that's basically what it is. Okay? Your terms are different from your disclaimers. Your terms are basically like, oh, you want to work with me? Well, if you want to work with me, this is the way it has to go if you want to connect with me. Like, your terms and conditions or your terms of service is basically saying, when you connect with me, like you have to be 18 years old or older. You must understand that payment has to be paid in full at the time of booking, things like that. That is considered your terms if you are to work. Like, those are my terms if you wish to work with me. So if you agree to these, then we can work together. That's what terms are. And you do have to consider stuff like, oh, what if they're late? What if there are no call, no show? Do you give refunds? There's so many different instances, but those are the things you want to think about when you're giving your terms. What, like, is there a moment that would make you like, what if you're late as the intuitive reader? Are you going to give them a refund? Are you going to give them a different time slot? So you want to think about that when you are considering your terms, of terms and conditions or terms of service for your intuitive reading. Okay, here's the next one. Mindset for intuitive readers, okay? And this is also a big one. As an intuitive reader, it's very important to keep checking in on yourself, and to be honest with yourself about you doing this line of work. Because the thing is, as your mindset as an intuitive reader, you have to understand that I need to keep my energy right. I enjoy this work, but I'm also doing this because I like to. Like, I'm in service. Like, if you're just doing this for the money, don't do intuitive reading, because it drains you. It's fulfilling work if you enjoy that type of work, but your mindset should be, I am here to connect with people that I wish to help them with specific things or areas or whatever my type of work is. And you have to remember that in order to keep this long-term going as an intuitive reader, you have to do your own maintenance. You have to keep up your own shadow work, your own healing journey. Like, you can't neglect you and expect you to have all this energy and endurance and all this for your channeling and whatever. Like, you have to keep in mind that your mindset has to be, I'm here to help people, but I cannot help nobody if I'm not keeping myself in check or I'm not doing my maintenance. That's a mindset that I feel is important and is very overlooked. I think a lot of intuitive readers just hope that they can keep going until they hit burnout, and then they wonder, oh, I had to have a break, and then they get upset that during their break, because they had to, revamp or rest or whatever, that they weren't making no money. And you need to keep in mind that, again, the mindset is, I can help you, but these are my terms, and I need my rest. I got to do what I got to do. Like, you have to have balance. So just keep that in mind, that your mindset as an intuitive reader is, I can help you. I would love to connect, but I am still a person, and I must have, maintenance and balance for my own self to do the long-term work of what it takes to be an intuitive reader, okay? Now, time for the next one. Time duration for readings. And this is different for every intuitive reader, regardless if you're a medium, a psychic, an empath, a tarot reader, whatever, because this simply has to deal with your capability, your tolerance, your endurance, basically. Because when I first started doing readings, they were all online. They were actually all long distance. It was just my way of practicing. And I would start off short, because you want to think realistically, if you're doing back-to-back readings or not, how long can you withstand connecting and sitting in the energy of someone else and picking up all these downloads and stuff like that, and then stopping? Because the thing is, with time duration, you want to have a good enough session to do what you got to do, but you also got to consider that you don't want to burn out. You don't want yourself to be depleted. You don't want to be siphoned as an intuitive reader. Of course, there are other methods that you can employ to offset this, like aura shielding and veiling and warding and all of that. But you need to keep in mind that if you are doing readings, every day or not, or if you're doing them back to back on that same day or whatever the situation is, only go as long as you are comfortable with. Like, don't give your full max, because then you're going to have to offset some days. Like, for me, it took me years to build up my endurance for channeling hours back to back, days and even from each other. Like, that wasn't something that happened overnight. I had to build up that endurance. It took me years to get to that point. I was 10 years old when I started reading for other people, and it wasn't until recently, a few years ago, until I actually started doing it professionally, because I started to step into my role. But you have to understand that for time, I now offer readings for 30 minutes, an hour, 90 minutes, or 2 hours for just one session. Some days I can have multiple sessions in a day. Sometimes I may just have 2 sessions in a day. Next day, nothing. Other day, it'd be full up. Like, it varies. So you have to keep in mind, for the long term, what is too much for a day? What is too much for a week? What is too much for 2 weeks? What is too much for a month? So you got to think, do I need breaks? Is this too much at once? Is it easier if I just break? You got to think about these things for yourself, because it's something you have to build up to. It's something you have to be able to do, You don't want to say, oh yeah, I can give you a 2-hour reading, but then 30 minutes later, you're like, I can't receive anything. I feel really, like, I'm getting a lot of headaches. I'm getting really hot, like I'm sweating, and I'm just not getting nothing. So you want to make sure that you're aware of what your limits are as an intuitive, and be realistic, be real. Don't offer anything you can't do. Don't hurt yourself. Okay. Pricing. this is a debatable debate. Because it varies, you know. When I first started doing readings professionally, I'm not gonna lie, if those prices were a joke compared to now. And there's a lot of debate with this, because you see people are like, how much do I charge for a reading? I don't want it to be so much that people just don't want to book with me, but I don't want it to be so small that it ain't nothing, and I'm mad. So here's the thing. Okay? You definitely want to charge for your time, for your capability, but okay, how do I say this? When you're trying to worry about price, you got to think, like, I'll tell you my thought process. When I first started doing readings, I would offer, like, I don't know, $25, 30-minute readings or whatever for, like, Oracle or whatever. And that was good at first, like, for practice. But I've noticed that when you do, I'm just gonna be real, y'all. When you offer prices at like basically cheap, and you're like, oh yeah, that would be a good deal, right? You might get like a lot of people like coming to you, like, like you might get a lot of traffic, but it's not going to be consistent traffic. And this can vary upon case to case, but I'm just letting you know that you want your price to be reflective on your worth, your energetic worth, and what you actually can give to people. And I got to the point in my practice eventually where I was like, so you're telling me for an hour reading, I don't deserve a dollar for every minute? And I was thinking, this takes a lot of energy out of me. And that's something you want to consider too. How much do I have to do this work? Like, am I exhausting myself? Like, for example, when I give a psychic reading, I don't have to go as deep in my client's energy as I'm doing a past life reading. When I'm doing a past life reading, I have to go deeper in your energy signature to pull that information for your collective consciousness. I don't have to go that deep when I'm in your, when I'm reading your aura or doing a psychic reading. But if I'm doing mediumship, I'm definitely gonna have to go deeper in your energy. So I charge more. So you want your prices to reflect that. Like, if you have to do more to produce something, then let your price reflect that. But if you're lowballing, no one's going to take you seriously. I'm just being honest, because I've noticed when I changed my pricing to what I believe I deserved, not only was I being respected, but you get a lot less of those cases being like, oh, I don't know if I could, can you just help me? I just noticed that when you treat yourself professionally and just treat yourself like what you know you deserve, people will act accordingly. And when you do act professionally, it's less likely for people to try to scam you or try to lowball you or say, can I get a discount or whatever, because they see where your standard or, level is. So just keep that in mind, okay? Personal safety for intuitive readers. Now, if you are in person, as an intuitive reader, I do recommend you have some form of self-defense, something on you, whether that's a knife or pepper spray or something, whether that's an event or you're traveling house to house, or maybe people come to you. Just keep in mind, you do want to have something to grab onto if the worst case scenario happens. But realistically, for me, if I'm doing any type of in-person work, I will have some form of assistant there with me. Like, if I'm doing an event, I'll have someone come with me. So if I have to go to the bathroom, they can be there at the table and watch so that nothing gets stolen or whatever, which you might want to consider. If I'm doing a house cleansing, blessing, or reading, I might have an assistant come with me, so that could be my extra set of hands. They can just give me some supplies or actually help me do the work. So that's something you want to consider for safety, for your own peace of mind, as well as to have someone there with you, whether they're driving you or assisting you or whatever. It's good to have another person, but to also have your own means of protection as well. Keep in mind, if you are doing some event spaces, some events like in malls or whatever, they may not let you have certain, like knives or guns or whatever. So just keep that in mind, but have something, remember, if you're wearing a bunch of rings on your hand and you're punching with that, it's going to hurt a lot more than if you didn't. So just, there's other means of protection, but something to consider. Now, if you're trying to have online safety, there's different ways to go about that. There's different ways to go about that, but realistically, you just want to make sure that you're not putting any personal information against your personal life, you know, like you don't want to mix personal and business. Basically, if you are doing this to read for others, you don't want anyone to have any personal information about where you live, or, you know, like anything like that to where it can compromise yourself, where they can visit you unexpectedly. So just keep in mind, if you're doing it online, you may eventually want to maybe block the person's IP address if it becomes a consistent thing. But just remember, just don't compromise yourself if possible. Don't give away, you know, your address. Like, you know, if people want to be like, oh, where are you at? You can give them, like, you can just tell them your city name, but don't give any specifics. Just don't compromise yourself. Keep all your personal information to yourself, you know, and go from there. But worst case scenario online, always have proof if someone's harassing you, you know, screenshot all this if you do have to press legal charges or whatever. But big thing is, you know, don't put all your personal information out there, and possibly have someone with you just in case, and have your own personal self-defense things, okay? Haters and trolls, okay? They're gonna be there in person or online, regardless if you're good, bad, whatever. So just keep that in mind. It's part of the thing. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I say if you have haters and trolls, then you're doing something good. But I know that it may be inconvenient. So if you're in person, you're dealing with haters and trolls, you just know that they're not your audience. So it's just like, whatever. But it may bother you. So, you know, if you have a hater or a troll, you can always just, how do I say this? If you have a hater or troll in person, personally, I'm very confrontational. I will literally have no issue confronting you in person, and putting out there, like, I'll put you on blast. Of course, I'm not gonna make myself look like the fool, but if you're trying to come at me during an event and start some drama and stuff, I'm not gonna have it. I'm not gonna let you kick me out. I'm gonna say my piece right then and there. But online, trolls and haters, just block. Just, like, that's the thing. Haters and trolls are unavoidable, but you want to be intentional in the way that you engage or respond. I don't recommend engaging. In most of the cases, if possible, don't engage, but it's very important how you respond to these haters and trolls. Just make sure that you're not making yourself look bad necessarily, if possible, because, like, you know, what if they're recording you or trying to leave a bad review or whatever, like, whatever the case is, just make sure that you are keeping your composure and making sure that you're not letting these haters and trolls take away from the work you're trying to do. But if you're wanting to minimize haters and trolls, realistically, you need to become so enveloped in your own essence to where you're just literally attracting your tribe to you. That's the best advice I can give. I hope that helps. Okay, how to present yourself as an intuitive reader. Now, there's definitely different ways you can go about this versus in person or online. In person, when you're trying to present yourself, honestly, please be as authentic as you can. When you're an intuitive reader and people are coming to you in person, they're really more so trying to connect with your energy and how you know, talk to them, you know, and I would say you would want to be inviting and open and loving as possible, but not everyone is that way. I just say that you want to really make yourself kind of, like, project your personality, make yourself feel like a person than a role. You know what I'm saying? More people are more comfortable with you giving some curse words here and there than you trying to be all, you know, like something that you're not. So if you're just being your flamboyant self, you're more likely to get traction, to be realistic with you. But if you're online, definitely keep your authenticity, but you do need to, when you're trying to solidify your presence online, I really feel like it takes more of a consistency to kind of solidify that, you know, because you want to stay relevant and stuff. I would say when you're presenting yourself online, you want to have your platform so that people can see what type of person you are, what your likes, what your values are, your goals for yourself, the people you're connected to. So if you're trying to present yourself online, make sure it's known, you know, who are you? What are you specializing in? Who are your people that you are serving? You know, your values. Make sure all of that is like laid out. So people are like, oh yeah, I want to connect with her, you know? And don't be afraid to use Canva to make your own digital graphics. I'm not a very tech savvy person, but I personally love Canva to make my business post and event stuff. Like I like to use Canva for a lot of stuff actually for business. So I just recommend you looking them up in general if you don't use them already. But when you're presenting yourself, you want it to be known about who you are, what you do, what you specialize in, who you're working for, and just express that. And I don't recommend necessarily pushing on people's pain points to sell anymore. I don't think that way of thinking is really working. I really urge you to just pride yourself and share that, okay? Now this is the last thing before I let you guys go, okay? Self-care for intuitives. Now I'm gonna explain this simply because I know it's a long video. As an intuitive long term, you're gonna want to ground your energy. You're gonna want to cleanse or purify yourself. You're going to want to do your releasing rituals, which is physical, emotional, and energetic. And you want to shield yourself, your personal energy, and your home space, because your home space is an extension of your personal energy. You want to do that flow, all of those to be your consistency for your aura maintenance and your spiritual hygiene. So make sure that your self-care is you keeping your energy right, you keeping your physical vessel strong, like your physical well-being. And that's the primary part. I mean, obviously you want to make sure you're mentally okay and emotionally okay, but I feel like those fluctuate throughout our lives. And I think the major thing is to make sure that we are physically able and capable and vitality, and that we make sure that we're just not keeping our energy building up with all this stagnancy and energy debris and all that. So just make sure, if you want to be an intuitive reader, whether it's professionally or just hobby or whatever, that you are doing your self-care. You have to ground your energy to get that excess off of you. Have that energetic exchange to replenish yourself. You need to cleanse your energy so that you don't have buildup, you know, over time, so that you're heavy and weighed down, having that brain fog. You want to shield yourself so that not anything is just coming in to contaminate or taint your energy, you know, making it something that you don't want it to be. You want to be so intentional with your energy that you are aware of the frequency that you are emitting off of yourself, stuff that you are engaging with or tolerating, or you're trying to, you know, bring into or attract. It's so important. So I hope that this video helped you guys. Know it's so long. Leave me all your questions, comments, concerns, all of that down, and I'll get to them. Blessed be, you guys.